Welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. Real talk from four pastors with over 200 years of ministry experience.
Hi, welcome to Friends, Life, and Ministry. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a really hard and difficult, but also blessed experience of one of our team, and that's going to be Bill Ankerberg. I'll let my brother Steve Johnson ask the first question.
Bill, it was a little over a year ago where you were getting some symptoms that caused you to um, decide you wanted to see a doctor. Could you describe what the symptoms were and then going to the doctor and then how you felt when you got the diagnosis?
Well, I was having problems pretty much with like shortness of breath and some issues, and then I had a an area here that just started to kind of grow, and they put me through two courses of antibiotics, and it didn't affect it at all. It just kept growing, and finally I went in and had a biopsy of this, and they told me, well, you have cancer. You
Hmm.
actually it's amazing what they could tell from just one. They could tell that it was actually originated from behind my left tonsil, so it was in my throat, and it was five of my lymph nodes had cancer in them, and so it at that point, again, for a guy who's been a preacher, I preached my first sermon 57 years ago.
Wow.
To not even know if you were going to have a voice when you were done. Just being able to talk to you today is such a gift from God.
How did you handle it emotionally? When you end up hearing that word cancer, for most people, that would be like the worst word to ever hear.
I was really shocked because our family doesn't have a history of cancer. We've had a history in my family of heart disease and heart problems. And so I've always worked a lot on that. I never would have expected, it would have
Mhm.
blindsided me into this. Uh, I think I was actually not as bad as I thought maybe I might have been, but my wife was really affected by it. Arlie is a nurse. We've been married 52 years, and she was just very worked up and sad about the whole thing. And I think she probably knew better than I what I'd have to go through. And I think in a strange way, part of the comfort was we know the Bible talks to us about we share the sufferings of Christ. We shouldn't be surprised by it. And was I? Yeah, I was. I didn't expect that. I thought maybe there'd be a heart attack or something, but not cancer. And to have to go through that, I just really didn't know where I was going, so I didn't really quite know what to expect.
Bill,
Hmm.
tell us about what the treatment was like. And
Yeah.
how did you feel about the treatment that was prescribed?
Well, I'll show you. When it was diagnosed, we were working with the Fred Hutch Center, which is the primary cancer group up here in Seattle, Washington. And Fred Hutch is actually a combination of the University of Washington, the Seattle Cancer Center, and then the original Fred Hutch Center. So they all merged together into one. And when I first was in, I knew that I wanted, I don't know how I knew this even. I didn't do as much research as I should have, but I knew I wanted to have the proton radiation. But I didn't realize at the time that the proton radiation was only available here in Seattle. It in Montana, Idaho, Washington, Oregon, there's only one place you can get it, and it's right here in Seattle. Now I'll tell you more in a minute, but the amazing thing to me is it was a 35-minute drive from my house to get it.
Oh, wonderful.
I had people that I talked to in the waiting area who were driving up from Oregon just to have treatment there. And yet I see God's provision for us moving here, in part because I had the medical care I was going to need here. And it was such a sense of why God would move us up here.
And you have moved from Whittier, California,
Yeah,
just a couple years before.
to be close to my daughter and her two boys up here.
Well, show us some pictures of the kind of treatment that you received.
Okay. Let's see if everybody can see this okay. Can you see this? Are you
Yep.
seeing it? Yeah. The kind of radiation I had was proton. And the thing about proton radiation is it's harder to find because it uses huge amounts of electricity. But the amazing thing about protons is it's more like a rifle. Let's think of radiation like a shotgun. Proton is like a rifle. It focuses it. And what would happen is I would go in, and you can see here, it took like three people just to get me all set up on this thing. And then they would kind of push me into, and this is the place where it would be done. And to give you a hold on, it's not going forward. Give me a second. Uh, we just tested this before we came on. You guys will back me up, but
Yep.
it's not moving forward. So just give
Okay,
me a
let's just
here.
start
Wait, I
again
can
with
get
the
it here. There we go.
okay,
Now,
let's back up, Bill, and start. Can you get where picture one is, it's not the sidebar pictures.
um,
You see, right now we can see the
oh,
list of the
okay.
pictures. If you do like play for those pictures,
That's an amazing machine.
I'm trying to work on that. I don't know how to get there. Can we just take a pause? And can you just stop and we'll cut in here
oh
when we
yeah,
get this figured
yeah,
out?
yeah. We'll pick it back up and start right from the start with the pictures.
Yeah.
Bill, I know you have some pictures you're going to share with us today about what the treatment was like. It just sounds like an amazing treatment. Could you kind of walk us through that process?
Proton radiation is amazing, but it requires huge amounts of electricity, but it tends to work more like a rifle than a shotgun. And so it's very focused. And one of the interesting things about it is you can actually stop it. Like with proton radiation, you could put a stop sign in, and it will only go so far into your body, and then it will stop. So this is the machine that I was in here. And if you look here, see how this part and right behind this woman here, those parts are recessed. But now in this next, so they're here, there are three people just to get me set up in this thing. And here's the adjustments. They had to adjust the height. They had to adjust how far it was into the machine. And then when they would do it, see how now these things have come out. And I had to move my arm here so that they could have more direct access. But here that now the radiation machine has actually come down to where I am. Uh, and then they would do the treatment. The treatments would usually last about, if everything worked right, a half an hour. But one of the frequent problems with proton radiation was energy issues. The energy would sometimes cut out, or they actually have. This was a whole floor of a building that this was done in, and underneath that floor was another whole floor, and that was where they had the equipment to produce and maintain the electricity for the units, and they had three full-time engineers just working on that floor during the day. The other thing they did was at Fred Hutch, they looked at mine and they said, we have three options that we can use. One is radiation, one is chemotherapy, and the other is surgery. But because of where yours are, because one of yours is right by your carotid artery, we don't see surgery as a good option. So we think we will do radiation and chemotherapy. So when I would have chemotherapy, I would have my own room, and this was a chair where my wife would sit, and here were the bags that would hang, and they would start off with two bags that would be getting me ready for the main drug, which was called cisplatin. The other thing was I had to wear these mitts. I had ice mitts on my hands and feet to keep the drugs from going there, because otherwise you tend to end up with neuropathy, permanent nerve damage in those areas the rest of your life. And so that's an important thing if you're going to go into chemotherapy, is to try to limit the places. My drug, cisplatin, which is right here, does not affect hair loss. I do have curly hair now. I never had curly hair in my life before, but you don't lose your hair with it. But what happens is some drugs you lose your hair, but if you can ice your head down, it will actually slow that down and maybe even make it so you won't lose your hair. But they would do two of these to prepare me, and then they would bring in the cisplatin, and the nurse would have to put a whole outfit on, head to toe, face shield guard, special gloves, only used for this, cover her feet, everything had to be covered. And then she would call the lab, and then they would bring in this drug, which is radioactive, and then they would bring it in and hook it up, and the nurse would sign a release for it, and then it would take an hour. So you see, this is about the end of the hour, and I would just be laying here, and I actually had what's called a PICC line into my upper arm right here. I had a line put in that goes all the way to inside my heart, and they would just hook into that so that I didn't have to have an IV every time. And so all of these things were just going directly into my heart. When the cisplatin was done, they would hang three more bags, and all of those were just to counteract the effect of this drug. Now they gave me a choice of two drugs for the cancer. One was a newer drug, they said, which was supposed to be less intrusive, but it was having mixed results. Or they said, the one we've done for years is the cisplatin. And the thing with the cisplatin was it allowed you to had an 80 to 90% chance you'd still be alive in 5 years. This was a dear woman who worked there, and she was from Serbia, and she would just come in and she would sit with me. And I want to say to those of you who even have friends, if you're allowed to just come, this takes like 5, 6 hours of a person's life. And you're there just pretty much most of the time, just letting this thing drip for a long period of time. And just to come in and just to talk, just to share a few words or just to pray with somebody is such a great ministry. Whether it's a person in your family where you normally would be allowed in, or just like a minister or somebody who can come in and care for people, it's a
Mhm.
great opportunity for ministry to be able to come in and do that. And this dear woman was a very spiritual woman, and she would come in and just talk with me and give me some practical advice. And it was just really helpful. So I want to encourage people to do that. And again, here's a picture years ago in Estonia, but
Yes.
I think of this so often. We know we are in the hands of God, right? We're
Now
not afraid
explain
of
that
what,
photo, please, because some people will think that you used AI to create it.
no, that's a real, it's just like not a statue, but it's there. Yeah. You've seen it, so you know. But and I'm going to stop sharing now, but we are in God's hands, and we know that part of being a Christian, being like Christ, is suffering. And Jesus gave us an example, and my suffering was nowhere near what his was. Uh, and so I just thank God he got me through that. And then about so we started in April, May. I was done with all of that. It took 7 weeks of radiation treatments, five Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, every week for 7 weeks. And during the same time, having weekly chemotherapy sessions every Tuesday. And so when that was all done, then you basically, I said, well, is it working or not? And they said, we won't know. I was done the end of May. They said, we will know in August if it worked or not.
Wow.
And then you just go home because what you learn is the
Mm.
drugs are still working. Even though you're not getting it, the radiation is still working and the drugs are still working for months after your treatments are over. So, but on the final day, there's a famous thing they have at every cancer ward in the world, and that's they have a bell. And when you have your last treatment, as you leave, you get to ring the bell. And typically the nurses will be there to cheer for you. And mine were in my room. And then I went out and the couple of two couples from my small group were there. My daughter and her family were there. My wife was there. And the kids, my grandkids helped me ring the bell that I was all done with the treatment. And that was just a very tearful day for me to be able to realize I'd come at least to that point. And then, well, I'll tell you more. How about questions so far?
What have been some of the long-term side effects of your treatment?
That's a great question because one of the things you realize is that radiation and these drugs do affect things. And because mine was neck and throat, it's a very narrow area. And so all the lymph nodes are gone. And so I have constant uh, lymph nodes move the liquid out. And without the lymph nodes, the liquid, the proton, filled liquid stays there all the time. And I have to actually physically massage that out on a regular basis just to try to get rid of some of that. I have no taste buds. I'm a year since treatment and I still can't taste things. And the little bit of taste I do have, because I scrape my tongue and brush my tongue and everything, just to try to be able to taste things. But the things I do taste don't taste right. Chocolate doesn't taste good. Like communion is really hard for me because the grape juice in communion just tastes terrible to me. But even that, for me, is a reminder that, maybe a reminder of the blood of Christ shed for us should taste good. Maybe it's okay that it tastes bad to me. And then I don't have adequate amount of saliva in my mouth. Well, that creates problems you don't think about because saliva helps kind of cleanse the bacteria out of your mouth. And so what happens is I have to go to the dentist every 3 months. And so far, I've been 3 times every 3 months, and every time they find another cavity because without the saliva there, and so now I have to have special toothpaste that is a prescription toothpaste to put significant amounts of fluoride into my teeth to try to
Mhm.
avoid that just because I don't have the saliva. So there's nothing you can do about that. Whatever it is, I talked about the neuropathy. There's damage that happens that you just are going to have to live with and just thank God you're alive. As they said, I've got a 80-90% chance I'll be alive in 5 years. Hey,
It's
I'm
great.
75 right now. If I make it to 80, the Bible says what? Three score and 10, four score for strength. So God hasn't promised more than that.
That's pretty good. Emotionally, how has all this affected you? Did you have times you were um, any time where you were like blaming God or where your faith was shaken in any way?
There were times I complained to God about it, what I would call, like in the Psalms, lament.
Hmm.
We actually had gone through a series a while ago about lament, and I was able to do that. I was able to, in essence, complain to God about what I was feeling and what I was going through without feeling guilt about that at all, but just being able to talk to God and share with God those things. But I knew God was with me. I didn't understand the purpose. You can't tell maybe from those pictures, but I weigh 55 pounds less now than I did a year ago. I lost a lot of weight because I couldn't eat. I was sleeping all the time. after the therapies, I was just exhausted. I couldn't stay awake. I couldn't eat. My bowels weren't working. Nothing was functioning properly. And so that was hard. I mean, it just was. And I had drugs I could take, some pretty strong drugs for pain, but those drugs have side effects. Um, and so all of that was difficult. Eventually, because I wasn't eating, I was losing so much weight. I had to have a tube put directly into my stomach, and then I would have a machine that I would have to put a tube in, and then that would push food into my stomach, just because otherwise I didn't have the strength to fight the cancer. And so, great question. Yeah, there's definitely side effects, and I think I was surprised by what I've been surprised by, and I appreciate what we're doing, is nobody told me this stuff. I've been a pastor, 53 years. I didn't have it. I don't even know how many hundreds of cancer patients I've dealt with. I had no idea. And I'll tell you the most holy thing that has happened to me since all this is I cry now. I
Mhm.
cry a lot more than I ever did in my life. And I'm glad I do. Uh, I did over 500 funerals as a pastor. I don't think I ever cried once because I would get myself in the zone and I would just get through it. But I'm thankful now. I cry just about every day about something I see. This morning, I got a picture of a 91-year-old woman who died, who was like a mother to me when I
Mm.
was a youth pastor in Iowa. And it made me cry just to see her face in that picture. I think there are good things that come out of this. And I don't think that would have come just in normal living for me.
Well, Bill, this has been so rich. Steve, any last question?
Oh, we've walked alongside you this during this whole journey, and actually, even during this journey, he recorded videos. So if you haven't watched them, you'll be able to go back and see Bill during the whole season.
As did John Van Dinter was with us
Yes,
for most of these too, with his pancreatic cancer.
Well, I think
absolutely.
this does play a really great role in helping people to understand more and just recognize there are people around you that are going through these challenging times. And this information helps us to be better prepared to serve them. Well, thank you for watching today. And as always, if you have ideas for future talks, email them to us or contact us, and we'll get you an ability to talk directly to Bill. Thanks for watching Faith,
Thank you.
Life, and Ministry.
Fine.
Thanks for listening or watching. We would love to hear your questions.